You're watching eNEWS Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela. Great to have you with us here. The stories we're tracking for you this evening. President Jacob Zuma reveals a plan to pay back part of the Nkandla money. This ahead of next week's Constitutional Court showdown.
I did not lie, and I am not a criminal. I thank you.
Suspended National Police Commissioner Ria Pierga comes out fighting against calls for her to be charged over Marikana.
And in your sports news, the Proteas require a huge 400 runs for victory in the opening ODI match against England in Bloemfontein.
Of course, you can have a say on any of our stories. Do find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct. Our hashtags this evening: pay back the money and Ria Pierga. To our top story now, and President Jacob Zuma says he is prepared to pay back some of the Nkandla money. The proposal has come to light ahead of next week's legal showdown in the Constitutional Court. Opposition parties want to compel the president to implement the public protector's report on his Nkandla home. Nearly 2 years ago, Thuli Mandonsela recommended the president pay back a portion of the money spent on his private home.
President Jacob Zuma wants the Auditor General and the Treasury to determine how much money he owes for the non-security upgrades to Nkandla. These include the Chicken Run, the Visitors Centre, the Amphitheatre and the infamous fire pool.
The President will abide by whatever amount has been determined by the Auditor General and the Treasury official, and he commits himself to that payment.
Zuma submitted this proposal to the court last year, but says his submission was greeted with silence from the DA, the EFF and the Public Protector. This time around, the President will be hoping the Constitutional Court will accept his submission and put this matter to rest ahead of the municipal elections. But Zuma's proposal could be too little, too late.
The President's position in government and in governance has somewhat weakened, and so his relationship with his party in an election here must be strengthened, and to strengthen that relationship he must strengthen the perception that the public has of him.
Despite his proposal, the President still maintains there are factual inaccuracies in the Public Protector's report. Teresa Taylor, Johannesburg.
We're not buying it. That's the overwhelming response from opposition parties to the president's proposed solution to the Nkandla saga. The DA and the economic freedom fighters are pressing ahead with their Constitutional Court challenge next week.
Nkandla,
The messy Nkandla saga has become a part of the national conversation. Now President Jacob Zuma wants it to go away, saying the matter has dragged on long enough and needs to end in the interest of national unity. But if the President thought his settlement proposal ahead of Tuesday's Constitutional Court case was going to be met with open arms, he miscalculated.
It's yet again another trick by President Zuma to institute a parallel process that seeks to undermine the work of the Public Protector. We still stand by the Public Protector. We believe that we should continue with our Constitutional Court action and ensure that her remedial action is binding on the President and that ultimately he's held accountable for the security upgrades in Nkandla.
It's a legal matter. He's not responding out of the goodness of his heart. He didn't have some Damascus experience where he had a change of heart because he was touched by some transcendental element. It's part of a juridical process.
Meanwhile, Public Protector Thuli Mandonsela says she's considering the President's suggestion and that she welcomes his willingness to engage regarding compliance with her remedial action on Nkandla.
From a political point of view, the response to the President's settlement letter has been a cynical one, with both the DA and EFF saying it's a face-saving exercise and it's just not good enough. But from a legal point of view, senior counsel believe that it's highly irregular to send a letter directly to the Constitutional Court ahead of a hearing, and so the case must go ahead as scheduled next week. Annika Larsen, Parliament.
A witch hunt designed to slander and vilify. That's how suspended National Police Commissioner repay views calls for her to be charged over Marikana. Police watchdog IPID yesterday called on the NPA to charge her with defeating the ends of justice. And today, repay hit back.
I did not lie, and I am not a criminal.
repay has questioned the timing of the proposed charges.
The undignified haste to announce my imminent charging smacks of a sustained, concerted effort by the people and entities in the police ministry to continue with a relentless campaign that seeks to harass, slander, and vilify me.
She says the IPID hasn't approached her personally, but the police watchdog says it isn't obligated to, as the charges are merely recommendations, and that repay will be informed once the investigation has been completed. Despite the threat of criminal charges, repay has reiterated her intention to cooperate with the inquiry into her fitness to hold office.
There is a deliberate effort to force me to abandon my quest to set the record straight and offer closure and clarity to this matter.
The Marikana saga is likely to drag on for months or even years. Not only is the issue of compensation for the victims' families still outstanding, but repay's fight to clear her name seems far from over. Bongiwa Khumalo, Johannesburg.
The newly launched Anti-Racism Action Forum, or RF, says FW de Klerk is a war criminal. They've laid criminal charges against the former president and former Minister of Law and Order, Adrian Vlok. De Klerk says he is not worried and will only respond when he has more details on the charges.
The Anti-Racism Action Forum says it's not a political organization. But former economic freedom fighters form part of their crowd.
After 22 years, the criminals that has murdered our people have had it nice. Time has come now that they must pay. Other people are paying back the money from Nkandla. They must pay back for the crimes they've committed against our people under apartheid, and they just continue to live well. So when you see de Klerk next time, you must know he's a wanted man.
The organization laid charges at both the Hillbrow Police Station and the Human Rights Commission.
Frederick William de Klerk, that's accused number 1. Accused number 2 is his minister, Adrian Vlok. The charge, conspiracy to murder. Sibukeng Massacre, 22 July 1990, 27 blacks dead.
21 similar charges followed.
Charge 22, accused number 1, Thokoza Hostel Massacre.
RF's founding principles include that land should be returned to rightful owners, that it is impossible for blacks to be racist, and that the anti-racism struggle should only be led by black people. Daniela van Heerden, Hillbrow.
In news making international headlines now, and investigators believe it's likely a bomb caused the explosion aboard a passenger plane that was forced to return to the Somali capital of Mogadishu. One person died when a blast apparently forced the Dala Airlines Airbus A321 to return back for an emergency landing. The plane was bound for Djibouti. And the U.S. has reported a rare case of the Zika virus being transmitted through sex, not a mosquito bite. The Center for Disease Control says a patient in Texas was probably infected through sexual contact with a partner who'd returned from Venezuela. The mosquito-borne Zika virus is spreading rapidly in the Americas, with concern mounting about a link to babies being born with underdeveloped brains. The World Health Organization has put Zika in the same category of concern as Ebola, declaring it a global public health emergency. Let's see what's hot on social media now. And Gareth Edwards, what's been the reaction to President Jacob Zuma saying he'll pay back some of the money from Nkandla?
Oh, we've had plenty of mixed reaction from the political parties, but it's the reaction from everyone watching this evening. We're going to show you in a moment the #1 hashtag today. Here it is, pay back the money. Opposition parties slamming President Zuma's offer to repay some of the Nkandla money. The DA says it is still going ahead with its constitutional court case against the president. But here, as we like to on eNEWS Direct, we want to know from you. So we put the issue up on our Twitter account at eNEWS Direct. We asked you, what do you think of President Zuma's about turn to pay back the money? We gave you 4 options. 13% of you saying long overdue, 16% saying admission of guilt is what this is, 5% saying be responsible, and the overwhelming majority voting for it is nothing more than an election ploy. That's on our Twitter account at eNEWS Direct. Go and vote. And also, repay is adamant she's neither a criminal nor a liar. She was responding to the IPID recommendations that she be charged for her role in the Marikana massacres. Now, as always, you can get plenty more of these stories if you're not on Twitter and Facebook. Why aren't you? But then you can also go to our website. It is eNEWS Direct. You just go and look for enca.com/direct. And while you're there, it is our top trending story today. Go and take a look at it if you've missed any of this. Zuma proposes Nkandla solution. All of that on our website this evening. Also, the Proteas updates on our website, but most importantly, Sandile, the Proteas chasing a massive score in the opening ODI.
Welcome back. Money Matters now, and the International Monetary Fund says it's willing to help oil exporters in sub-Saharan Africa. The global funder is willing to give funding to oil merchants who are facing plunging crude prices and growing fiscal pressures. Oil producers in Nigeria and Angola have asked the World Bank for help. The price of a barrel of oil has dropped by more than 70% since June 2014. Nigeria faces an estimated 242 billion rand deficit this year and is looking to borrow some 80 billion rand to plug the gap. The World Bank is now looking at financing for Nigeria and Angola with a program to support structural changes in emerging market countries. Right, let's see how the markets performed today. Well, let's check in with the Weather Center now. Here's Candice.
We've seen lots of thunderstorm activity over the eastern parts on Wednesday. There's even a watch of the possibility of heavy rainfall over the southeastern part of the Eastern Cape for tonight, and that spreads through to KwaZulu-Natal tomorrow, with cloudy and wet weather moving in over the eastern part of South Africa. There's also a watch of the possibility of severe thunderstorms for the Mpumalanga Highveld, and it's the last day of the heat wave over parts of Limpopo, with sunny and hot weather returning to the forecast over the western parts. In KwaZulu-Natal, you'll see that cloudy and wet weather with widespread thunderstorms, and of course the possibility of heavy rainfall. Quite cool over the interior with widespread thunderstorms extending over the eastern part of the Eastern Cape. We're forecasting rain along the coast with some morning drizzle for Graaff-Reinet and Somerset East as well as Beaufort West. Dry and warm as we head towards the Western Cape, mostly sunny at 31 for Cape Town, George at 23 degrees, 35 and sunny for Uppington, in the mid-20s for Alexander Bay, Sutherland and Colesberg, with a dry day throughout the Northern Cape. Isolated thundershowers are expected for the Free State, except over the western parts, Bethlehem at 28. Scorching hot and dry for Vryburg at 37, with a hot day and isolated thundershowers for the rest of the northwest. You'll also see thundershowers through to Limpopo, with a sizzling hot forecast for Lephalale and Messina at 40 degrees. Widespread thunderstorms extend over the eastern part of Mpumalanga, with a watch of the possibility of severe thunderstorms for the Highveld, with potentially large hail and damaging wind. A high of around 30 degrees is forecast for Gauteng, except for in Pretoria Pretoria 35, with up to a 40% chance of thundershowers for Gauteng. On Friday, we're forecasting sunny and hot weather over the western parts, with thundershowers over the northeastern part of South Africa and some light rain along the east coast. On Saturday, a slightly cooler day for Cape Town at 29, with thundershowers for Gauteng and the Free State and some drizzle for Richards Bay. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Have a great night.
Thank you, Candace. Here's what's coming up after the break. The first play by a black woman to be staged on Broadway arrives on South African shores. Welcome back. Johannesburg's Market Theatre is staging a powerful play to mark Black History Month.
Yes, A Raisin in the Sun focuses on a black family living in Chicago way back in the 1950s.
Artistic director James Nkandla says he's drawing parallels between South Africa's struggle and the hardships black Americans faced.
And our art reporter Nontobeko Sibisi got a sneak peek of that action during rehearsals.
The anniversary of Black History Month, a month remembering and honoring the strides and accomplishments of black men, women and events in the history of the African diaspora. It's annually observed in the US, the UK and Canada, and now, thanks to this production, back home too. Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun was the first play by a black woman to be staged on Broadway. Now, almost 60 years later, the iconic story of a black family struggling for acceptance is being revived on home soil.
To do this is linking ourselves to black narrative that is all over the world, you know, and the phenomenon of a black person's struggle in the world is frighteningly similar. We need to find ways of linking our narrative to the world narrative.
Hurry up and open the banking business. Stop talking about it.
Why? Now, this ain't no fly-by-night proposition, baby. I mean, we got it figured out.
So if you're in the mood for a beautifully written tale full of raw emotion, get to Johannesburg's Market Theatre this month. Nontobeko Sibisi, Johannesburg.
A reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. President Jacob Zuma reveals a plan to pay back part of the Nkandla money. This ahead of next week's Constitutional Court showdown.
I did not lie, and I am not a criminal. I thank you.
Suspended National Police Commissioner Ria Pierre comes out fighting against calls for her to be charged over Marikana.